this rule was in place for all of those games. This rule has been in place for every playoff game that has been played last year and this year. It just didn't come up. But you heard the reaction there, Hembo. I mean, Travis Kelce. And so for them to fire their defensive coordinator 3 days later, look, I understand. I'm sure that they didn't fire him because they thought he did a bad job in the Super Bowl. I'm sure there were other factors at play here. It's not my job to tell Kyle Shanahan how he should run his coaching staff. He's a very good coach. I've been very critical of him the last few days. None of it changes the fact that I think he is a very, very good coach, one of the best coaches in the league. However, the fact that you then fire the defensive coordinator 3 days later, after your defense kept you in that game, they played great. They only gave up one touchdown in regulation, and that was off the bat, the muffed punt. In the meantime, Kyle Shanahan takes the ball in overtime, doesn't use his timeouts at the end of the first half. The play calling in the third quarter was horrendous. The play calling in the overtime was inconsistent with the decision to take the ball. Kyle Shanahan does all those things and then fires one of his coordinators 3 days later. It doesn't pass the smell test.
It's the ugliest part of the industry, and I thought it was a very weak move by the 49ers, especially considering the most recent thing that happened. The Chiefs got the ball in regulation 10 times, not coming off of a turnover. On those 10 drives, Steve Wilks' defense allowed 12 points, 0 touchdowns, and 4 field goals. That's about as good that you could possibly ask or expect your defense against the best quarterback of all time.
And that's with one of their best players tearing his Achilles untouched in the second quarter.
Yes, and also, their all-pro safety hasn't played for half the season. So, look, I mean, I don't think Steve Wilks did a great job at this unit from soup to nuts this year, but he did a perfectly good enough job to retain his job and an objectively great job in the Super Bowl. And if you were to list the number of things that cost them that game, Steve Wilks is something like 10 or 15 on the list.
Oh, absolutely. Steve Wilks was good, and Brock Purdy was good. The things you might originally have thought you would point to, well, I don't think we would have thought we would point to Steve Wilks, and he's the same guy who got screwed in Carolina and in Arizona. Yeah. I mean, I feel bad. I've never met Steve Wilks in my entire life. But I feel bad for him. He's the guy who got a head coaching job in Arizona, and they fired him after 1 year after giving him Josh Rosen as their quarterback. And then he goes to Carolina. He's picking up the pieces when they fire Matt Rule, and he does a great job, almost makes the playoffs. All the players love him. They're begging the owner to keep him. The owner fires him, hires Frank Reich. They fire him before the first season ends. Now he gets this job, Wilks does, and this happens. I feel bad for him.
It feels very reactionary by the 49ers. It feels like, okay, we lose the Super Bowl. Our fan base is out for blood. What can we do? And what you do is you fire the coordinator. You cut out someone's knees beneath you on the hierarchy. But what this means now is that Kyle Shanahan has to, it has to be sort of held to task for this. I'm not suggesting they're going to fire him or fire him soon, but are you going to you just fired a defensive coordinator after pitching a great game in the freaking Super Bowl. So, like, the higher you get on the hierarchy, Kyle, the closer we get to you.
I also don't think you needed to do anything.
Me neither.
You just lost the Super Bowl in overtime. like you came as close to winning a championship and not doing so as any team ever has. So, I mean, it's not like I don't even know. You're not obligated to do anything, which is the reason that I actually think they just had other reasons to do it. I don't know what it was, fit, personality, chemistry, who knows? I don't think they fired him because they thought he cost them the Super Bowl. I really don't. But it still doesn't feel right the way it turned out. I think it would have worked for sure. LeBron James and Steph Curry are not just your average NBA superstars. This is not Kyrie Irving. This is not James Harden. This is not some of the other collection of people who have other agendas besides winning first and foremost, who were putting together super teams. These are guys who have won a combined total of 8 championships. 4 of them have come with super teams. 4 of them have come when LeBron teamed up with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, when Steph Curry teamed up with Kevin Durant. LeBron also recruited Anthony Davis and made that happen in LA, and that led him to another championship. So if you want to say 5 of their 8 championships have come on super teams, I think it absolutely would have worked. And for those who might point out their age, Steph Curry and LeBron James are both playing at all NBA first team levels right now. Right now. And if there have ever been players in history who could put it together as quickly as they would need to make a run in this year's playoffs, I would bet on the two of them. LeBron and Steph are not only two of the greatest players ever, they're two of the smartest players ever. Their skill sets would work together so well. Imagine the death lineup. Is that what they used to call it? The
They
death
did,
lineup?
yes.
Let's just do it in our heads. Because Clay has been coming off the bench, right? Isn't there a lot of that going on now?
But he might have been a part of that trade for salary purposes.
Okay, so let's not even include him. But you got LeBron, you got Draymond, you got Steph. Right there, envision what you've got. You've got LeBron down in the post. You got him working around. You got Steph racing around the perimeter like crazy. LeBron can take it to the hole. Draymond getting all your rebounds, starting your fast break and everything else. I mean, just right there. I think that is a 100% legitimate contender that would be fascinating to watch.
Those three players have literally every skill that a championship team requires in their closing lineup. Draymond Green right now is still a top 5 defender on the planet. LeBron James still a top 5 passer on the planet. And Steph Curry is still the best shooter on the planet. If you were to put LeBron James and Steph Curry on the floor at the same time, Steph Curry's shot profile would improve so much that it would enable him to be as good a shooter as he's ever been.
I have a feeling about these Packers. Second half of this season, Jordan Love was as good as any quarterback in the entire NFL with the exception of no one. He went into Detroit and beat the living daylights out of the Lions in their own building on Thanksgiving. He went into Dallas and humiliated the Cowboys in their own building in the playoffs. And you know what? He had San Francisco dead to rights the next week. And he did it in his first season as a starter, essentially his first season, with as young an offense as there is in the entire NFL. They're going to get better and better. If I had to pick a sneaky flyer to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl next year, I would go to Green Bay.